Thank you so much for tuning into my show. This is my first interview of the morning at the Pelican Institute's summit in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But before you focus on where it is, focus on the policies and the good ideas that this summit brings together from people all over the United States. With me is my first guest, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Jason. What's your last name?
Janz, J-A-N-Z.
Jay, that's an easy one. Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
It's finally good to meet William Wallace. I've been wanting to meet him my whole life.
Well, you know, there are movies about me, and I regularly talk about freedom and liberty on my show.
He looked younger than you, though.
He did die at a very young age. I did make it out. I'm a little bit older than him. I just don't have my face painted blue.
It would be an improvement.
It would. Boy, this would be a tough interview. I can tell already. Jason, what's your organization?
I run an organization called Cross Purpose in downtown Denver, Colorado. We walk with families from poverty to prosperity through kind of a community-based approach to just loving people well, all the way till basically a homeless person, all the way till they become a homeowner.
What I talk about regularly on my show is that I believe that nonprofits and also that individual mentality of how to help the individual on a person-to-person basis is always the best way to help people, not only out of poverty, but out of spiritual poverty too. But do it in a way where you're able to break those chains from government. Is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, we talk about building three forms of capital into people's lives. A spiritual capital where they start to believe in themselves. Obviously, over half the families that come in have some form of a faith background, so they can draw on that for their support as well. But then we build social capital, which is relationships. That is, we say there's no significant change without a significant relationship. But then the economic capital is helping them actually make money. So that is teaching them the soft skills and hard skills to get a career level job and even level up if they want to go on and get a 2- and 4-year degree. But walk with them till they can actually create generational wealth for their children.
So what this tells me is you don't just show people how to do it, you walk with them and act as almost a mentor and a support staff. Is that?
Yeah, we say we actually fight alongside our families on the road from poverty to prosperity. So we're walking alongside them because the truth is, we said there's mutual redemption involved, right?
Right.
That when we walk together with people, we're changed by the very process itself. So that's the joy of that high touch, highly relational, high impact love.
You know, you just said something, and I'm just being openly honest here about this, that I've never thought about. I've always thought in terms of helping other people. And I've always felt like, okay, it feels good to help other people. But you almost talk about a mutual benefit that the person who helps is also getting helped at the same time. I never thought about it.
We were designed to love our neighbor. We were designed to walk together with people. And so if I'm not doing that, I'm actually experiencing a poverty in my life. I give a talk called The Poverty of the Rich. And oftentimes people that have made it into the middle class, upper middle class, or the wealth class have a poverty of relationships cross class. And so part of the problem with the polarization in America right now is that the rich and the poor don't know each other. And I say the rich meaning anybody who is in middle to wealth class, right? And so we're in the 1% of the world. So yeah, I think there's a need for this reciprocity that happens, and you eliminate the helper and the helped kind of relationship almost, because we all have forms of poverty in our life. And so we can actually walk this road together and help solve each other's poverties.
Do you find that when you talk about the rich and the poor, do you find that there is a line or I guess a threshold where when you talk about the rich, we hear about the rich, of course, we've heard the Dell family now was funding, some of the Trump funds. I don't want to use the name, but he's funding like the wealthy tend to donate a lot of money. But, at what point does that threshold cross? Do you find that, middle income people donate more often or more money, combined, or do the wealthy donate more money because they're more noticed about it?
Neither one.
You find what I'm saying?
The poor actually give away more than the middle class or the wealth class.
Really?
By percentage, yeah. By percentage, the people without give more than anybody else. And by the way, the billionaire class, even those on the Giving Pledge that have said they're going to give away half of their wealth, most of them haven't done it yet. So there's only actually one living family that made the Giving Pledge that has actually fulfilled their pledge and given away half of their wealth, and that's the Arnold family from Texas. So it is a myth that the billionaire class tends to give away a lot. We see the zeros, but as a percentage of their wealth, even since COVID, their wealth has gone up, 50%.
Do you track this? I mean, based
I've
on
done a deep dive into this. I'm writing a book on this, and I'm talking about, these myths, blowing up these myths and saying, really, we're in the greatest wealth transfer in global history right now in the next 20 years. If the middle to wealth class simply gave away 10% of their money, it would fix the world's problems.
If the middle class,
middle to upper class, yes, gave away 10% of their income, 10% of the estate transfers, we would outpace government spending just by voluntary giving to our neighbors who are in need. Now, where people struggle with that is they've seen handouts just be giving money to people with no accountability and no real structure to that. And so we've tried to combine in our program both the catalytic use of capital with economic empowerment and training so they can actually get career-level jobs. So it's the 1-2 punch. But you can only do that when you know somebody and they trust you.
Right.
And you walk down that
so
road
you're not.
together.
So you're not going into this saying, I'm looking for ways to transfer money or wealth or donations from other people to my. I don't want to say your clients, because it sounds to me like they're not.
We call them leaders because they lead their own change out of poverty.
Well, I like that because you're basically helping people become their own leaders. I love this. So I don't want to say that you're looking for donations. You're really looking for the capital, the relationship capital, is
The
what
relationship
you're
capital
building.
combined with some economic capital. So, for instance, most people that made it to the wealth class or the upper middle class were helped in some way.
Right.
Mom and dad paid my way through college. Right. There is a giving of resources to people that you know and you love.
Right.
That happens all throughout the economy. It's the only way the wealth in the middle class made it. Right.
Right. I like it.
I haven't met anybody that says someone didn't help them get to where they're at. So yes, there is a room for some philanthropic capital to be used to help somebody with training costs that they don't have. So, for instance, if somebody wants to get a CDL truck driver license in this country, it costs about $5,000 to get the license. Well, there's no public funding for that. So, and
wait a minute,
somebody that's making $20,000 a year can't pay $5,000 for a credential. Well, philanthropy, and you and
right,
I
exactly.
can sit there and say, let's give money to help this guy who's shown he's trying to get ahead. In fact, we have a number of women now that want to drive trucks. So we'll train 112 CDL truck drivers this year, and we'll pay 100% for that training. But now they can get a job at $60,000 a year. Well, you've changed the trajectory of their family.
So where are you getting that money? Where are you getting that money?
Mainly philanthropy. Sometimes I can get it from the safety net, that the public has given money for that. Most people think of the safety net only as giving people cash welfare, but there's parts of the safety net that actually are for employment and training of people to help them get off of public assistance. So we use some of those funds as well. But they're very small compared to
You really are connecting a lot of dots. When you talk about those being small, you really are not only relying on philanthropy, you're relying on your knowledge of where to go, of where the resources are, and then, of course, most important, your relationship capital with these people.
Bingo.
So we've talked.
You nailed it.
I love it. Well,
so I say that Phil Knight.
Well, you nailed it, but I just I just had the light on it.
To talk about it. Phil Knight wrote the book Shoe Dog. He's the founder of Nike, and he gives the story about when they put a Nike plant over in Vietnam, and he wanted to meet the guy who beat the American Army, and he said, "How did you do it?" And the man said, "I became a professor of the jungle." And so while our tanks were getting stuck in mud, they were digging tunnels underneath us, right?
Right.
Well, in the poverty space, I just had to become a professor of the jungle. I had to find out where all these pockets of resources were and connect them so that we could help the average person in poverty not just be a happier person in poverty, but get out of poverty. That's the goal.
So now that we've got a really good overview of kind of what you do, I want to go to how you got started. We're going to go backwards for just a minute. How you got started But before we do that, what's the name of your organization? Because while people are watching this, I want them to visit your website, visit your Facebook page, whatever it might be, so we can shine a light on more
Yeah,
people.
it's called Cross Purpose. The website's crosspurpose.org. Cross Purpose means to go a contrary direction. So we want to go a different direction than the way the poverty story has worked out here in America.
Right.
And actually say this is not an intractable problem. It's our number one social problem, but we can actually solve it. And the way it became personal to me, obviously I was raised in poverty as a kid. My dad lost his business. Our house got foreclosed on. But then I just started developing a deep empathy for people that were suffering. That's what poverty is essentially, is people are in human suffering if they can't afford food and shelter. And so then in my 30s, my family, my wife and I and 4 kids moved into a neighborhood, and the woman next door to us was living in poverty in a Section 8 apartment. But she had a job, full-time job,
Right next to you.
changing oil at Walmart, but she was stuck. And so I thought, just food and clothing and shelter is not enough. Like, what does she need to help her make the money she deserves to make? She was super smart. She thought like a manager. And that's what began me on the journey of saying, let's actually not just help people in poverty, let's help them get out. And, now she makes 6 figures. She manages a public storage company. She's bought her own home and all that kind of stuff. That's what I feel like we can still see the American dream alive and well if the community comes together and connects the dots, like you said.
People helping people sounds simple, but you're proving that you get good results when you actually put those words into actions.
I think the average American would help somebody if they knew that their funds were being used well, there was an accountability structure in place, and they would make a difference in life. We all do it to our own children, right?
Right.
So we want to make sure that they get to economic security. What if I did that not just for my biological family, but for somebody in my neighborhood?
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do is help spark that neighbor-loving movement that is holistic.
Somewhere along the line, I remember hearing something, sarcasm alert here, about teach a man to fish and he eats for life, or feed a man a fish, he eats for a day.
Yeah.
You didn't steal that, did you?
Well, everywhere I go, people give me that proverb. It's a Chinese proverb that
Kind of
says,
like William Wallace, by the way.
Yeah. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. I think that actually gets people only halfway up the hill. You have to also equip them with a good fishing pole. Just because you train them doesn't mean they have a good job. So we have to give them a good fishing pole, which is a great job. But then we want them to own the pond. We want them to own an appreciating asset so they can pass on generational wealth to their children. So we actually have a poverty of vision in this country around what's possible with the poor.
So you go ahead. Well, no.
That's
So you moved next door to a woman that was living on Section 8. You worked with her to get her, a job managing a storage complex. I think you said, and you was that. Did you stop there, or was during that process you said, "Hey, I'm on to something now"? So, at what point in there did you start, or afterward, did you start your organization?
Yeah, quick clarification. She did all the work, right?
Right.
I was there just to support her. She put in the effort. It took her 10 years from the time that she started working on a career to buy her home. And I thought we could do that faster and we could do that at scale. And so this year we'll help 500 people do that.
That's amazing.
In Denver, Colorado, because we just institutionalized it. And I think that's why I'm in Baton Rouge, is saying, I think Baton Rouge, they've invited me to come in and talk about this. Say, what would it be like to have this in Louisiana, where we could actually walk with these residents who are seemingly intractably stuck and help them actually move to a place of self-sufficiency and even home ownership.
So so at this point is when you started your organization. You've helped a lot of people since then. But is the Pelican Summit one of your first times out of the state to actually try to say, I'm going to show other people? Or have you done this in other states already?
I've spoken a couple other places, but we've been fairly unknown. We started in 2012, and I was invited to speak in D.C., and a Pelican Institute person heard me speak and said, come down to Baton Rouge, and so I'm here and just going to talk about what we do. And then they told me to come talk to William Wallace.
I love it.
I can't miss that.
Well, here we regularly talk about freedom. On my show, you'll often hear me talk about these weird questions about freedom, like where we're losing freedom in America, and people are always like, we're not losing freedom in America. We've got all the freedom we want in America. And I'll say, well, where are we losing freedom in Louisiana? Where are we losing freedom in our medical, in our medical freedom? Where are we losing freedom, in our economies? when you really start looking at where we're losing freedom at specific areas, more eyes start to open. And I think that one of the places that we're losing freedom in America is in economical freedom. And I think the economy and government steals a lot of our economic freedoms away because we become victims instead of empowering ourselves with things that help us break that mold, because we don't realize that we have the power and the ability. But what I see with what you're doing is that you are saying, no, we still have that ability. We just have to help each other do it. And you've taken those skills or that knowledge and you're saying, there's a tool over here. Put this arrow in your quiver. Here's how to use it. And after you use it, here's how to maintain it so you have it for the future. Is that a bad analogy?
I am 100% in agreement with you around economic freedom. If you look
Although
at
William Wallace talks about swords a lot, so but that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sometimes the sword is necessary, but the heart of the American dream. I've actually read several books on the American dream because it's a little amorphous and people don't really know what it means. But almost every definition of the American dream, I say, comes down to 3 F's: freedom, fulfillment, and finances. And without either one of those 3, you really don't have the American dream. Freedom is the ability to choose the life that I want to live.
Right.
Fulfillment is I also want to reach some level of happiness. When Jefferson said pursuit of happiness,
right,
he was actually borrowing from Locke, who said pursuit of property. That's tied into the finances, right? You can't have the American dream if all you have is the freedom to choose and you have fulfillment in your life, but you don't have the finances to pull it off, right?
Right, exactly.
And you can't just have finances without fulfillment. So, yes. And if you look at economics, why is it important to have economics? Because when you have money, you have agency and choice in your life to make the choices that you want for you and your family.
Exactly.
And when you don't have it, you don't have that freedom. So the very core of the American dream says we provide economic empowerment for people, and everybody can have a piece of that dream. And that's why I'm here. Is this conference called Reigniting, the American Dream?
Right, exactly.
That's what I talks about. That's what I'm all about.
Let's wrap up here. 30 seconds. Is there anything that we forgot on how people can help your organization? The name of your organization one more time, and I'm going to leave you to an invitation. We are going to do a longer show in the future with your approval. And I'm going to bring you in on a live stream, and we're going to tell the American people more about how not only can they be involved, but how they can reach out to your organization for help.
Yeah, I mean, we would love the help. We're about 15 years old. It takes about $12,000 to move somebody from poverty to prosperity, and so we're obviously looking for sponsorships. At the same time, if you and your community, I believe every American community actually has the resources there to help move people up those 4 steps that I mentioned. And if we can help you bring those together and connect the dots, like you said, we can help communities set up alliances that help navigate people all the way up the mountain.
Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I want to call on my guests, please, to empower yourselves not only by going and looking at Jason's website, but realizing that you have the individual ability to help others yourselves, but Jason's leading the way and can show you a blueprint on how to do that by helping others. Thank you so much, and please share this interview with somebody that you think might want to help others not only get themselves out of poverty, but empower them to do so. And stay tuned to other things that the Pelican Institute is working on. Thank you so much.